all this stuff I get going on and forget. Okay, so the recording is now on, hopefully, and now we've got to share the computer sound. And let's get rid of the video panel. Okay, now we'll watch the basics of graphing. Here we go.
Number 376, the University of South Florida's Betsy Mattson. Up against high flyers from Colgate, Rhode Island, Williams, Boston College, Northeastern. We're going to use Ms. Mattson and rivals to review a tool as essential to economics as a pole is to vaulting, the graph. But before we get to the main event, a few basics. This graph, based on totally made-up data, shows the fictitious relationship between a person's hourly income after graduation and hours spent watching these videos. It's the old cliche in action, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But how to draw this kind of picture? Well, let's wipe the slate away and start with the data, the numbers themselves. Let's say Ben here watched our videos for 1 hour and now earns $15 an hour working in a toy store. His pal Carby, on the other hand, eyes glued to the tube, watched these videos for 30 hours, and Carby earns $200 an hour after graduation as chief economist of a giant toy maker. Here are the numbers for Sven, Darby, Glenn, Arby. Not so easy for most people to see a pattern here unless you put these data points on the graph. So let's get graphic. Since we're only showing the relationship between two variables, we have only two dimensions to work with here: the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. In economics, they usually put money on the vertical axis, time on the horizontal. Okay, here's Ben. 1 hour, not very far on the horizontal, $15 on the vertical. The data point is where the two meet. Carby, 30 hours, $200 an hour. Her data point is up here. And when we fill in Arby, Glenn, Darby, and Sven, a clear pattern emerges. The more hours you spend watching the videos, the more money you make, or so we'd like to think. In the Discover Econ software made for this course, by the way, you can play with a graph building exercise till you get the hang of it. Graphs can handle as much data as you've got. Here are the daily closing prices for the U.S. stock market from 1900 to 2000. Individually, gibberish. But graph them, and you quickly see that while stock prices rise and fall over time, the general trend has been up, way up. Now, two-dimensional graphs can depict the relationship between any two variables, like stock prices and time, or say height and weight. Ben is 9 inches tall and weighs about 2 ounces. Being plastic, he doesn't have to worry about his weight. Ted is 40 inches tall and weighs about 1,300 ounces. He's been bulking up for a cold winter. And I'm 70 inches tall and weigh about 2,700 ounces. The relationship is again clear. The taller you are, in general, the heavier you're likely to be. This is what's called a direct relationship, since both variables change in the same direction. Height increases, weight increases. But not every relationship is direct. Sometimes when one variable increases, the other decreases. The more hours of very loud music you're exposed to, research shows the worse your hearing will be over time. Plotting it on a graph, you would have hours of loud music on the vertical axis, ability to hear on the horizontal. A few hours listening to super loud music, pretty good hearing. Lots of hours listening, no better than okay hearing. Tons of hours, poor hearing. So the variables on this graph move in opposite directions. As hours of loud music increase, ability to hear decreases. This is what's called an inverse relationship. Finally, we get back on track to graph the pole vaulters. The relationship we're after between height of vaulting and years of training. Okay, inverse or direct?
How much practice do you need to be able to do this stuff?
A lot. Years of experience.
The more you work on your technique, the better you get,
Yes, sir.
the higher you jump.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, how high could I jump? I've never pole vaulted before.
You probably wouldn't make it off the ground.
Wouldn't make it off the ground.
This thing is heavy, actually.
Go up like what?
So I'm gonna go like that.
Well, not exactly Cirque du Soleil material, but Instant Replay reveals that after just 2 minutes of training, I cleared one entire foot, earning me a place on the graph. My trainer, however, Betsy Matson, went on to clear 12 feet. Matson has been practicing for 10 years, and she managed to clear 12 feet. So the relationship is again direct and again obvious.
Yes, you got over.
We end with this hopeful thought, that getting graphics should give you leverage in economics and the real world. More leverage even than launching yourself skyward. Plus, it's a whole lot easier.
Okay, that one kind of ended, caught me by surprise. I was sitting there watching, enjoying the video, and there it suddenly ended. All right, so the basics of graphing. We're going to see a lot of graphs. They're not that complicated, but you do have to think about what it's saying because that intersection, that point on the graph, is tells us something. Well, let's go on and finish the production possibilities curve. The first thing we're going to do is talk about how it models economic growth. And the second segment in the video we saw last week talked about that, talked about how during World War II we got more guns and butter. That production possibilities curve shifted out. So that's what this one's going to talk about. And so here we go.
Now we're going to talk about economic growth a little bit using the production possibilities curve, of course. Now, to illustrate how economic growth is, we're going to use a kind of a simple example. Robinson Crusoe, okay? Or your favorite person. You. Let's say you are stranded on a desert island and you spend all day digging for clams. That's all you do. That's all you have time to do. You spend your day digging for clams on the beach, and that's how you survive. That's how you eat. Now, right now, since you're spending all your time digging for clams, the opportunity to increase your standard of living is pretty slim. I mean, you're getting kind of discouraged. You'd like to do some other things. Well, let's map this out with the production possibilities curve. On this axis, we're going to put clams. And on the other axis, let's put down a capital good. A capital good is a good used in the production of other goods. See, right now, all you have are your hands. I mean, you're digging with your hands. You don't have any capital goods. A capital good in this example might be a shovel. Okay? Tools, machinery, factories, those are capital goods. Again, a capital good is a good used in the production of other goods. Well, let's put on this axis a shovel. And to keep this nice and sweet, you have all the knowledge, you have the human capital, because before you got stranded on a desert island, you learned how to make a shovel. Okay, you went to school and you learned how to do all that stuff, and it just so happens that in the island, you get off the beach, you go inward. Oh, there's all the minerals and there's all kinds of stuff. Everything you need to make a shovel, all right? Okay. So, right now, you're making that many clams. Okay. If you spend all your time digging for clams, that's it. If you spend all your time digging or making shovels, you could produce that many shovels. And we'll connect the two dots, and you can make, a variety of combinations in between. So, you're here. You're right here. This is all you do all day long. And you you dig for clams and you eat the clams. Now, if you wanted to, if you had a shovel, you could dig those clams up in half the time. And then you'd have the rest of the day to do other stuff. Okay, maybe you'd have time to go pick some bananas or whatever, okay? But what must you do to get that capital good, that shovel? You are going to have to give up some clams, right? You're going to have to spend time going into the interior of the island and getting what you need to get to build that shovel, and that is time away from digging for clams. So, let's suppose, let's give this a number. If you are going to build that shovel, okay, you're going to have to give up 3 clams. So in this case, you're going to have to go hungry a little bit, right? But once you have that capital good, that shovel, and this is the main point, next period, okay, next month, next year, whatever it is, your production possibilities curve shifts out. You can now have more of everything, because now that you have that capital good, you're more productive. Okay, these are terms we're going to come back to again and again. You are more productive. Productivity is what determines our standard of living. We're going to have a whole chapter on production and productivity. Want to raise your standard of living? Increase your productivity. And the only way you can do that is if you invest in some capital goods, and this includes human capital. Human capital, that's what you're doing right now. You're investing in human capital. Human capital is the knowledge and skills gained through education and training and experience. And I said in this example, you already possess the human capital to build a shovel. Okay. You brought that with you to the island. Phew, boy, that was lucky. So there you are. This movement, this shift out of the production possibilities curve is called economic growth. And over time, as we gain more knowledge and skills, more technology, more human capital, this thing just keeps on shifting out and out and out over time. And like I said, this is exactly what you are doing. Now I'm going to put another graph in here. Change it just a little bit. Well, let's put human capital on this axis, but I'm going to be specific and call it education. And maybe I'll even call it a college education, okay, since that's kind of what's happening here. It's one thing you've all got in common out there. And on this side, I'm going to put leisure. There you go. Well, let's suppose that you graduate from high school and you get yourself a nice little job, and you are basically, you go out west and you become a ski bum. You do some odd jobs, make just enough money to ski. You're living it up. You're right there. You're right there. Well, a few years go by, you notice some of your friends are now graduating from college, or getting good jobs, and they're buying houses, and they have money left over to go skiing too. Some of them have come out and visited you and skied. You're thinking, well, that's interesting. I kind of like what they're doing. So you're thinking, and here's your production possibilities curve, maybe I ought to invest in some human capital. Maybe I ought to learn how to do something other than bus tables and flip burgers. There's a reason why people don't make a lot of money bussing tables and flipping burgers. Do you know what that reason is? It's because it doesn't take that much specialized knowledge or skills to do that. Well, how are you going to invest in human capital? You are going to have to give up some of that leisure. You're going to have to do less skiing. And let's say you go out and you learn how to do something. Okay? So you have this much human capital. Now you qualify for a better job, or at least you're more marketable. Okay, that's often the case. When a college degree doesn't always get you a job in the field you study. Actually, oftentimes, especially if you're in certain fields, certain majors, but what it does is it gets you the interview. Employers will look upon you as someone with commendable diligence and perseverance and persistence and qualities that they would like to have as an employee, even if you didn't major in exactly what it is they do. So either way, it gets you in the market. Well, again, you had to give up some leisure to get there. Now, let's say you wanted to qualify for an even better job. Let's say you wanted to go on and be, something that requires a graduate degree, a professor or a lawyer, a doctor, something a little more. How you going to do it? You're going to have to invest. And how you going to do that? You've got to give up a little more leisure. And when you do that, next period, that's your production possibilities. And then the next period, you keep on going, that's your production possibilities. I mean, some people are really good at deferring their consumption out into the future. And that's what basically you're doing. Every time you move this direction, every time you go from here to here, here to here, what you're doing is deferring consumption into the future. And that's hard to do. You know, we kind of like to have fun now, not tomorrow, not next year. But some people are really good at that. They're willing to work their tails off today in order to have this later. Okay, some people are good at studying long hours, day after week after month. They just go this way. But guess what? Whoa, they get that down the road. Now, and again, it depends on what you're studying. If you're studying something there's a strong market for, it requires specialized knowledge, there you go. Okay, well, that's how economic growth works. In this case, it's your own personal economic growth. It's your own standard of living that you're increasing. The way to do it, again, you have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in that human capital and gain the skills to get there. Now, kids, well, actually, some adults, well, I'll take that back. A lot of adults, many adults, but especially kids, virtually all kids, have a really hard time with deferring their consumption and their gratification into the future. I remember my nephew, he was about 3 years old, and it was like 2 days to Christmas, 2 days. Well, this was many years ago. My mom sent us down to the grocery store to get some things for Christmas Eve, and all the festivities. I took him with me, and he saw a toy gun right as we went into the store, and he had to have that gun. Oh, boy, did he want that gun. Well, I thought, okay, well, when he's not looking, I'll put it in the cart, and I'll give it to him for Christmas. We'll have it be from Santa Claus, I thought. Well, we'll do that. But then I had to convince him that Santa would bring it. I said, you know what? I think let's don't get that now, because I'm pretty darn sure that Santa's going to bring that, and that's only 2 days from now. And so let's don't get that now. No. He wanted it right then. And I said, well, here's the thing. I know Santa. Santa and I are friends, and we talk once in a while. And I know for a fact he's bringing. I shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you. He knows you, and I know him, and he's bringing it. He's bringing it. It's a fact. So let's just hold on. No. He wanted it now. Okay, so I'm getting kind of desperate. So I said, okay, here's the thing. I pulled out a little economic scarcity. I said, Santa only has so much room on that sleigh. Okay, now, if he brings that gun all the way from the North Pole, only to find that you already have it, he's going to be upset. And you know what? And I've known him to do this. He's going to be upset enough that he's not going to leave you anything. Nothing. So here's the thing I want you to think about while we're shopping, okay? We're going to go through and get the stuff on the list, and you be thinking about this while we shop. would you rather have the gun today and no presents from Santa 2 days from now? Or if you wait 2 days, you're going to have the gun plus everything else Santa's going to bring. So there's a trade-off. There's an, oh man, wise Uncle Kent, boy, he sure laid it out right. I thought, man, am I the uncle of the year or what? I am amazing. Okay, he thought about it for about a third of a second. He said, Uncle Kent, I've thought about it. I think I'll take the gun today. Well, I threw up my hands and said, sorry, kid, I guess I'm going to have to step in and save you from yourself. We're not going to get it. Okay, I can't let you do that. You're okay. That's where I step in and just use force, right? So anyway, I did get the gun. He didn't know it. There it was, waiting for him for Christmas. And anyway, I was always astonished that he was willing to give it all away. 2 days. Okay, 2 days to a 3-year-old is an eternity, but he was willing to trade it all away to get it right now. So one of my favorite definition of maturity is the ability to defer gratification into the future. And a very immature child can't do that. A very immature child, young child, can't make this movement along here. They want it now. And some people are able to do it better than others as we grow older. Okay, well that's it for economic growth. We'll see you for the
Okay, so that's economic growth. And your personal economic growth, there's one way, guys, there's one way, and that's to learn the skills that are valued by the market. And that's how you increase your personal economic growth or your standard of living. This last part here just talks a little bit more about why it's bowed out. The bottom line is that there are increasing opportunity costs the more you produce, and that's because not all resources are equally suited for all types of production. You know, some resources are well suited for one thing, and other resources are better suited for something else. So that's the bottom line there, and the bowed out shape illustrates that. So we get a lot of mileage out of this little model. It models scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity costs, the limits, and it economic growth by shifting it, and of course the bowed out shape. It illustrates the law of increasing opportunity costs, or what is frequently called the low-hanging fruit principle, as explained in here. So let's take a look at that one. This one's not as long.
Now we're going to talk about why the production possibilities curve is bowed out. Why is it bowed out, you know, like that? Why does it look like that instead of, you know, like this, straight line? Why do we do it that way? Well, because we are modeling, okay, let's look back at all the things that we get a lot of mileage out of this production possibilities curve model. It models scarcity. Okay, scarcity. Economics is all about scarcity. And because of scarcity, we have trade-offs. We've got, you know, we can't have everything. And when we trade one thing for another, the cost of that, what we give up to get one thing, is what we give up of another thing. So it's what we give up to get something, our opportunity costs. So it models scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity costs, and economic growth when over time as it shifts out. And one more thing. I mean, this is a lot of stuff for one little model. And it models the law of increasing opportunity costs. Increasing opportunity costs. That is, as we produce more and more and more and more and more and more and more, we're going to have to give up more and more and more and more of something else. And another way to say this is the low-hanging fruit, okay, principle. We're going to pick the low-hanging fruit first, okay? When we pick fruit, we don't start with getting a 20-foot ladder and going to the top. We usually start at the stuff that we can reach up and grab the easiest. And then we get a ladder and get the next easiest. And then we get a taller ladder and get the next easiest. And then, you know, we start with the low-hanging fruit. And then we get the highest, hardest to get fruit. Well, that's what we do here. Now, for example, during World War II, when tanks were being produced for World War II, they didn't convert dairy farms into tank production. They converted auto factories. See, an auto factory is already kind of familiar. A car isn't exactly like a tank, but it's a lot closer than milk and butter. Okay, now eventually they may have converted milk and butter production into tanks, but they started with the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit was auto factories. That's what you begin with. All right. Well, here's a little example. I mean, it's a little ridiculous, but it gets the point across. That's the main thing here. Let's say we have two goods. Okay, one is ballet. So we got ballet production, and we have football production. So that's what we do. We do football, we do ballet. That's it. That's us. That's our culture, that's our society. So, let's say that we are right here. That's where we are. We produce 0 ballet, and let's say we have 20 units of football. Whether that's 20 games, 20 leagues, 20 whatever, it doesn't matter. Just that's how many units of football we do. Well, we think, as the benevolent leaders of our society thinks that we could use a little more culture. Okay, we could use a little mellowing out. We're a little coarse and a little rough and a little ill-mannered. Okay, with this game of football. And I love football. Okay. So, we think that producing a ballet, let's start a ballet. You know, that'll fix the problem. So we decide to go with one ballet. Now, all of our resources are currently involved in football, all of them. That's all we do. How are we going to get a ballet going? We're going to have to move resources away from football and into ballet. Let's say that's 18. So we're going to produce at this point on the production possibilities curve. Now, keep the low-hanging fruit principle in mind here. Who are we going to transfer over from football into ballet? We're going to transfer the low-hanging fruit. Those who are most productive in producing ballet and least productive in producing football.
An hour and 20-minute session.
Think of tanks and dairy farms. Okay. So, well, you know, ballet includes a lot of jumping up and dancing and stuff. So we might get some of those athletes who are kind of tall and slender and, I don't know, wide receiver, some of those guys. Anyway, we're going to move those over. And we're going to get our first ballet at a cost of 2 footballs. All right. Now, I'm not saying wide receivers aren't highly engaged in football production. They're highly valuable. They are. There's a couple of flaws in this example, but just hang in there with me. Okay. So, we like what we see. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. This is doing wonders for our people. So we think, well, if a little bit is good, more will be better. So we decide to go for a second ballet. And we decide to produce at this point right here. Okay, right there. Well, what is the opportunity cost of the second ballet? Well, the second ballet caused us to go from 18 down to 13. But here's the thing. So get out your fingers. That's 5. Okay. Now notice the first ballet cost 2 units of football. The second ballet costs 5 units of football. Law of increasing opportunity cost. The opportunity cost has increased. Why? Because we've already transferred our best ballet people and our least good football people. So that's why we were able to get a ballet with very little loss in football. But now we're going with the next best ballet people. And you know what? We're going to have to dip into a little bit. Some of the people we transfer from football are pretty darn important to football. So it's going to cause us to give up more football because these people are pretty good at football production. They're not quite as good as at ballet production. At least these guys aren't as good as these guys. Okay. That's why that second ballet costs us more than the first one. Okay. Now, we are so excited. Our society is just doing great. So we decided, you know what? We're going to go all ballet. We're done with football. We're going to do ballet from now on. Nothing but ballet. So we're going to go with that third ballet right there. And, of course, to get the resources to go to that third ballet, okay, from here to here, we're going to have to give up the rest of our football resources. Now the third ballet, what's the opportunity cost? You go from 13 down to 0 football. That third ballet is costing us 13 units of football. How come? Because the people now being transferred out of football into ballet suck at ballet. Okay, these are great at football. These are resources that are very narrowly suited for football. We're talking offensive linemen, okay? These guys can't do ballet worth a darn, okay? They can only like do one little move or something. So they aren't very good at ballet. It just takes all of them to crank out that third ballet. So the opportunity cost for the first ballet was 2, for the second ballet was 5, and for the third ballet is 13. So we've got 1, 2, 3 opportunity costs going from 2 to 5 to 13. Law of increasing opportunity costs, that is what we mean. that the more we produce of something, the more we have to give up of something else because of that low-hanging fruit. We're going to pick the low-hanging fruit first. And the high-hanging fruit is more costly to get. It just takes more effort. It takes more capital. We're going to have a ladder. And for the highest, we're going to have a big, expensive ladder, right? So that is why. And we observe this. You know, again, the bottom line here is it simply models the fact that resources tend not to be equally suited for all types of production. There you go.
And thus ends chapter 2. Okay? So we combined chapter 1 and 2 into one unit. We did them kind of together. Chapter 1 is just get to know economics, get to know MindTap. And like I said, if you jump through all the hoops, if you read the chapter and if you do the problems and all that, it's just kind of an onboarding experience. I'll give you full credit, no pressure, just do the work. Chapter 2 now is important.
Professor,
Mm-hmm.
where do we do the homework?
In MindTap, right here.
Where can I?
So okay, I'm clicking on we're in Blackboard now. I'm clicking on chapters 1 and 2. That's our first assignment. It's in here, MindTap, access and registration. And if you have questions about that, click on the announcements. Were you here in the first class?
Yeah, I was here.
Okay.
Not the first class. I was
If you need
in
a
the second
review,
one.
go ahead and watch that there. Okay, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I said I was not in the first class.
Oh, you were not?
Yeah.
Okay, it's really important that you watch that first class. That'll get you up to speed. Here under the Thursday, February 4th announcement, I've got a link to a recording of the first class. So watch that. I explain all that in there. So be sure and watch, okay?
Okay.
Okay, all right. And shoot me a message here if if you have any more questions. So, chapter 2, I know it's getting kind of tedious, getting kind of, I know what you're thinking, like, whoa. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff in microeconomics. So, I've noticed, though, a lot of you haven't gotten on board with MindTap yet. You're on the verge of getting 3 chapters behind, and we're going to start chapter 3, and we're going to right away apply what we just learned about the production possibilities to trade. So don't wait another minute and get going on this. So this will all be due, chapters 1 and 2 will be due Thursday. So that's way more time than I think you need. It's just that I'm giving it to you, but I don't know why I do that. It's like I've given you rope to hang yourself, and then maybe I've got to rethink that because I can't tell you, far too many students start on the day it's due. But guys, we're starting chapter 3 now. We're going to be done with chapter 3 by then. So I give you that little extra time, I guess, just to account for things that may come up or whatever. I don't know why I do it. Maybe I got to rethink that. But I think you're college students now. You can manage yourselves, and you can do that. Yeah, go ahead.
When is chapter 3 due?
Well, we haven't even started it yet. We're going to start it right now. So it'll be due, again, like I say, roughly a week after we finish with it. But we're just going to barely get started today.
Wait, what time does this class end?
So it won't be due for a while. Go ahead.
What time do
It
we?
ends at 3.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, class ends at 2:55, actually. Yes, I have to write that down myself. Yeah, 2:55. I know, it's long. They made them longer. They shortened our semester, and they lengthened the classes by about 5 minutes or so. They used to be a little shorter, these twice-a-week classes, but now we go fewer weeks and more time. So hang in there, guys. Let's start in on chapter 3. Chapter 3 talks about trade, and first of all, why do we trade? I mean, I buy my bread at Wegmans. I buy my instead of making it myself, I drove a Dodge Caravan to campus today. I didn't make my own car. I put gas in it from the gas station. I didn't drill my own oil and refine my own gas. This shirt I'm wearing, I didn't make it. I don't even know how to make a shirt. And well, what did I have for breakfast? I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I don't have any chickens in the backyard, and I don't have any pigs. I don't have anything. I had some oatmeal, actually. I had some oatmeal. But I don't grow oats. I don't have a farm. You know what? Most of us are that way. We produce very little of what we consume. It's a miracle. How do we even stay alive? Yet we're fully dressed. Most of us have eaten today, and if not all of us. But we didn't build anything. We didn't grow anything. We didn't make anything that we have, for the most part. Well, the reason we do that is because rather than making everything ourselves, you know, there's a word that describes the standard of living for those who produce everything themselves, everything, make their own clothes, make their own food, and you name it, they do it. The word is poverty. Okay, that's the standard of living for those who are completely self-sufficient. What we want now, there's a lot more to life than standard of living. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But given the choice, we prefer a higher standard of living than a lower one. And we achieve that. We achieve a higher standard of living by specializing in the thing we do best, the thing where we have the lowest opportunity cost. That is, we have a comparative advantage. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then we trade with people who are specializing in what they do best. Okay? And then we trade with each other. That produces a much higher standard of living than, say, going off somewhere and you know, living, growing our own food and hunting our own game, and you name it. That's why we do it. So let's say I have a trading partner in Rochester. Does that change the gains from trade any, instead of trading with someone just in Syracuse? The economics of trade doesn't change at all. How about Buffalo? No. Gains of trade, the economics of trade stay the same. How about going over to Erie, Pennsylvania? We just keep going west. We crossed the state line. Ooh. No, gains from trade, the economics of trade, the same if you live in another state. Although we're starting to get a little touchy about that as businesses move south, trying to find lower tax rates. Yes, New York keeps raising our taxes. How about Toronto? Oh my, now we're in another country. See, now we get a little touchy about that. When our trading partner is in another country, now, the the economics don't change. The economics of trade is the same whether you're in this different towns, different states, different countries. But the politics of trade changes when you cross, or I should say tends to change when we cross those international borders. But the economics doesn't change. The politics does. So anyway, let's get started in chapter 3 with absolute advantage and comparative advantage, and we'll stop it there. But I just want to kind of get going so you can, you know, as you read chapter 3, you'll understand it. Having already seen what it is, you'll probably get it a little better. But with that, let me also mention you can't really get this just from the listening to me. Honestly, you've got to read the book. That's a very important part of the class is to read the book. Okay, here we go. Oh man, is it snowing outside? That just distracted me. Well, okay, chapter 3 and absolute advantage. Here we go.
And a web page update.
Well, let's start at the beginning. That'll help.
In this video, we're going to talk about absolute advantage. We're going to have 2 producers and 2 goods. Our first producer is Arthur. And our goods are bike repairs and web page updates. Arthur can do a bike repair in 5 minutes. And a web page update in 20 minutes. Now our other producer is DW. DW can do a bike repair in 30 minutes. And a web page update in 30 minutes. So, what we want to do is translate this into some unit of time. When we talk about labor productivity, we're usually talking about per hour. How much can a worker produce per hour? Now, of course, we could do it per year, per month, per week, per day, but per hour is common, so that's what we'll use. So let's draw a production possibilities curve for both Arthur and DW. This one will be for Arthur. And we'll put bikes up here and web pages here. So let's talk about bikes. Arthur can do a bike repair in 5 minutes. So how many can he do per hour if he does nothing but bike repairs? Well, 5 minutes. There are 12 5-minute periods in an hour, right? 60 divided by 5. So there's the point on the production possibilities curve if he does nothing but bike repairs. How many web page updates can he do? Well, he can do 1 in 20 minutes, so that would be 3 per hour. Now we're going to simplify this and assume a linear relationship, meaning just a straight line. Of course, we could make it complicated and have a curved production possibilities curve, but if we have the choice between a model that is complicated that we can use to explain a concept or a simple model that we can use to explain a concept, we're going to go with the simple one. Okay? So there's our production possibilities for Arthur. Well, how about DW? Whoops. Well, DW can produce a bike repair in 30 minutes. Got bikes on this axis again, just like with Arthur. Well, if she can do 1 in 30 minutes, that means she can do 2 in an hour. And the same with web page production. She can do 2 per hour. Again, we'll assume a linear relationship. There we are. There's DW's production possibilities curve. So who has the absolute advantage in bike repair? Well, we better define what absolute advantage is. Absolute advantage, there's 2 ways to look at it. Okay. For a given level of inputs, you get the greatest output. Okay, that's one way of looking at an absolute advantage. Let's look at it that way. Okay, the input, what is the input here for both DW and Arthur? It's 1 hour of labor. So in that hour of labor, who can produce the most bike repairs? Well, we've got Arthur here produces 12, DW produces 2. So it looks like Arthur has the absolute advantage in bike repair. How about web page production? Well, we have Arthur who can produce 3 and DW who can produce 2 per hour. So for a given level of input, the greatest output again goes to Arthur. Arthur has the absolute advantage in both bikes and web page production. Now, another way to look at absolute advantage is for a given level of output, you can produce with the fewest inputs. This is the flip side of the same coin. I hope you can see this intuitively. If you can produce more per hour than someone else, then it stands to reason that if you produce the same quantity, you're going to be able to do it with fewer inputs. So if Arthur and DW are both producing, let's say, 2 bike repairs, Arthur's going to be able to do it in less time than DW. For any given level of output, he can do it in less time or with fewer inputs. Now in the next video, we're going to talk about comparative advantage. Now, before we do that, you might think that Arthur, because he has the absolute advantage, that he will not be interested in trading with DW. I mean, Arthur's the best. He's the best producer. He can produce bikes better. He can produce web pages better. Will he be interested in trading with DW? I'll give you a preview, and the answer is yes, because trade decisions are not based on absolute value. They're based on comparative, I'm thinking of math. They're not based on absolute advantage. They're based on comparative advantage, the subject of the next segment. Advantage, the subject of the next segment.
Okay, things get just a little trickier, a little more complex here with comparative advantage. Absolute advantage, pretty straightforward. I think it's just if you can produce more stuff, okay, you have the absolute advantage. But trade is based on comparative advantage. So here we go. This one's it's 10 minutes long. It'll take us right up to the end of the class. And here we are. Here we go. Let's go.
Now we're going to talk about comparative advantage. In the last video, we established that Arthur had the absolute advantage In bike repair, he can produce 12 in an hour, whereas DW produces 2 in an hour. And he also has the absolute advantage in web page production, producing 3, where DW produces 2. But even though Arthur's better at producing both goods, it's not the absolute advantage that determines trade, it's the comparative advantage. So what we've got to figure out is who has the comparative advantage. And the comparative advantage is real simple. The definition, that is. It's the one with the lowest opportunity cost. As you recall, opportunity cost is what you give up to get something else. So, what does Arthur give up? Let's say he's producing all bike repairs. He's right here, producing at 12 bike repairs. So he's producing zero web pages. Let's suppose he increases output from 0 web pages to 3 web pages. What's he going to have to give up to get those 3 web pages? Well, he's going to have to give up 12 bike repairs. So going from 0 to 3 web pages results in going from 12 to 0 bike repairs. So let's write it this way. The change in bike repairs divided by the change in web pages. Now, if we increase our web pages by 3, we're going to decrease our bike repairs by 12, right? So 3 web pages results in 12 fewer bike repairs. Now let's calculate the opportunity cost for DW. Well, if she's sitting here at 2 bike repairs, producing 0 web pages, if she goes from 0 out to 2 web pages, she's going to have to decrease her bike repairs by 2. So 2 web pages cost her 2 bike repairs. That's your opportunity cost of producing 2 web pages. She's giving up the production of 2 bike repairs. So let's write that the same way. We've got change in bike repair divided by the change in web pages, and that equals, well, if web pages, we increase web pages by 2, we're going to decrease bike repairs by 2. Now here's the thing. It's a lot easier to compare. See, right now it's not really that, it doesn't really jump out at us who has the comparative advantage. We know that 3 bike repairs cost 12, 3 web pages cost 12 bike repairs. For Arthur, we know that 2 web pages cost 2 bike repairs for DW. But the nice thing about ratios, and the reason I wrote it this way, is that the ratio always ends up with a denominator of 1. That's why I put the good we're trying to find the opportunity cost of in the denominator, because it's going to become a 1. We don't want to know what 3 web pages is going to cost us. We want to know what 1 web page is going to cost us. So let's take this out. What's minus 12 divided by 3? Well, it is going to be minus 4, right? Now, we don't usually put the 1 down here, but to help us analyze it, I'm going to put it there. There's a 1. So we've got 1 web page for Arthur costs him 4 bike repairs. We do the same thing for DW. -2 divided by 2 is -1. Put in a plus 1 in the denominator, because when you divide anything through, the denominator is going to be a 1. And that helps us analyze it a little bit. So 1 web page costs DW 1 bike repair. Now it does jump out at us. Who has the comparative advantage in web page production? Well, it looks like it's DW. 1 web page costs her only 1 bike repair. For Arthur, 1 web page costs him 4 bike repairs. So DW has the lowest opportunity cost in the production of web pages. Therefore, she has the comparative advantage in web page production. All right. DW has a comparative advantage in web pages. Now let's figure out who has the comparative advantage in bike repair. Well, now, because we want to know what 1 bike repair will cost us to produce in foregone web pages. So we're going to want to put bike repairs in the denominator this time. So let's do it for Arthur first. So if we've got, if we're producing 3 web pages and 0 bike repair, and we decide to go from 0 up to 12 bike repair, okay, so we're going to increase bike repair by 12. What's that going to cost us? Well, we're going to have to go down from 3 to 0 web pages. So there we are. 12 bike repair cost us 3 web pages. Now again, we don't really want to know what 12 bike repairs cost us. We want to know what 1 cost us. For comparison purposes, that's a lot easier. So we just divide through. What's minus 3 divided by 12? There we go. -3 divided by 12 is 0.25, -0.25. So 1 bike repair costs Arthur 0.25 web pages. Now let's do the same for DW. Well, we don't really have to do much, do we? If we increase bike repair by 2, web page is going to go down by 2. That equals minus 2 divided by 2 equals -1. Okay, so we've got 1 bike repair costs DW 1 webpage. Okay. So who has the comparative advantage in bike repairs? Well, one bike repair costs Arthur only 0.25 web pages, whereas one bike repair costs DW a full web page. So Arthur is the low-cost producer here. He has the lowest opportunity cost, therefore he has the comparative advantage. In bike repairs.
All right, guys, I know I kind of stuck it to you hard today. It's been a long day. I wanted to get started on chapter 3 a little bit because we're not going to meet clear till Tuesday. That's 5 days. I really wanted to get you started on chapter 3. Be sure to start reading it. And remember that chapters 1 and 2 are due soon by Thursday, but do those, knock those out right away and get going on 3. All right. We'll be back with more on chapter 3 on Tuesday, and we'll go from there. So be sure to get going on MyTap. I mean, it gets started here. I mean, get going. Start. I'll send out a little video again on how to open up your pop-up or turn off your allow pop-ups. Okay. Disable your pop-up blocker, because that seems to be a problem with a couple of you. I'll do that. I'll post some things in the announcements, including a recording of this class and the other 2 classes, so you can get up to speed if you missed something. All right. That's it. Have a good, safe, and
have a good day.
Wholesome weekend. All right. See you guys Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, Professor.
Thanks. Appreciate it.